I trusted him with everything. I trusted him with the house keys, with our savings, with the names of our family secrets, even the small things I never said out loud. But that night, as the clock blinked 11:37, I found the one thing I never thought I would find: proof that he was planning his escape right under my nose. If you like powerful stories like this, please hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter. Tell me in the comments which part of the country you are watching from. I want to know who is watching with me. Now let me tell you what happened. I woke because the house sounded different. The kitchen light was on. The soft hum of the fridge was louder than usual. A small suitcase in the hallway had been pushed under the bench where we kept umbrellas. My heart beat fast and slow at the same time. That heavy ache when something doesn't fit the way it should. I crept down the stairs in my slippers. You do not think clearly at that hour. Your brain jumps to small things. An accident, a late worker, the cat knocking over a cup. But the sight stopped me cold. My husband was at the front door, his jacket on, his hand on the brass knob. He had his phone in the other hand and was reading something. The streetlight made a stripe of light across his face. He looked older and tired in that stripe, like a man carrying a long day. I remember every little thing that came next as if it were recorded on a slow, shaking camera. I reached for my phone to shine the screen, but my hand trembled. He did not notice me at first. Then he slipped something into his shoe. He bent, like a secret you hide behind a smile. That move, the way he bent, told me more than any words could. I stepped forward and said his name. He flinched. He closed his hand over the shoe as if holding a small animal. He tried to smile, but it was the kind of smile that felt like glass. "Can't sleep?" I asked, my voice thin. He said, "Just taking a walk. Fresh air." His voice sounded normal, but his eyes were not. I wanted to laugh, to put a hand on his shoulder and make this all fine. Instead, I kept looking at that shoe, the suitcase, the phone screen which he now hid behind his palm. "Where are you going?" I asked. The question was small, but my chest felt huge. He shrugged. "Out. For a little while." I stepped closer. The room smelled of the soap he used, and the bread we had for dinner earlier. He was the man who joked about small things, who kissed my forehead when the news was too heavy. He was the man I trusted. I had given him access to everything: our bank app, the password to my email, the spare key for my mother. My world was built around that trust. But then I saw a sliver of paper slide out from his shoe when he adjusted it. A white corner. A ticket, maybe, or a note. He tried to hide it, but it fell to the floor. It landed face up. My hands were cold. My eyes read the small print before my mind could catch up. A date. A city. A flight number. My name was not on it. Our home address was not on it. It was a one-way ticket for a flight leaving in the morning. The time was early. The destination, another country, an unfamiliar place on a map I had never looked at. I did not shout. I did not cry right away. I only felt a pressure under my ribs, like someone pressing a book on my chest. My husband bent to pick up the ticket. His hand closed around it, but I was faster. I grabbed it from him. He looked at me, and for a second the room did not exist. The streetlight stripe cut across his face, and I felt so small and so large at once. "Why?" I whispered. He did not answer. He let out a quiet noise that could have been a laugh or a sob. He opened his mouth and closed it again. He touched his jacket as if feeling for something else. That's when I saw it. A second thing, hidden under the lining. A passport with a photo I knew too well. My breath left me. He moved for the door. I held the passport and the plane ticket like they were coals. He froze, then turned slowly. His eyes, once the warm color of the old wooden table in our kitchen, were empty like a winter sky. He said, "I can't do this anymore." Those words cut through me, but they did not mean what I first thought. They did not mean he was tired in the way you are tired after a long day. They meant escape. They meant leaving the promises we had made at the altar, the nights we had shared, the child we planned, the house full of small noises. I followed him into the hallway. I could hear my pulse in my ears. The silence of the sleeping house felt loud. There were small things I remembered, a coffee cup he forgot to wash, a text from his sister that said, "Call me tomorrow," a receipt for a repair he denied. These things were now pieces of a puzzle I did not want but could not ignore. He stood by the door, his hand on the knob. Outside, a car engine growled softly. Someone was waiting. I could see through the frosted glass the shadow of a person moving across the porch light. My husband looked at me with a face that asked for forgiveness. "I'm sorry," he said. The words fell like coins into a well. I wanted answers. I wanted him to explain how he could hide a suitcase, a passport, a one-way ticket right in our home. I wanted to know if the late-night calls were lies. I wanted to know why he had sold our small things, why a larger charge appeared on our account, why his jokes had begun to feel like masks. He opened the door. A cold wind from the sleeping street brushed past us. For a second, time stretched. I felt the world tilt. I stepped forward and grabbed his sleeve. "Who is coming?" I said. "Who is in that car?" He looked at me like I had named a stranger. "It's none of your business," he said, and his voice was thin and sharp. The car horn honked once, soft and quick, like a warning. The man outside called his name. My husband answered, then hesitated. He reached into his pocket, and his phone beeped. I saw the screen for a beat, a message with a short line, "Tonight, 11:45. Gate 7. I did not know which gate. I did not know which airport. I only knew the numbers. I needed to do something. My hands shook. The passport and ticket burned in my grip like paper in winter. I could have called someone. My sister, the police, my mother. I could have opened his phone, searched his messages, read every hidden line. I could have screamed until the neighbors came. Instead, I did what I always did when I needed to think clear. I asked him a simple question. "Are you leaving me?" He looked at me like the question was cruel and obvious. "It's not like that," he said. "It's not about you." What he meant and what he said were two different things. His lips moved, but the ticket in my hand said another truth. He stepped toward the door. The person outside called again. Something moved in the shadows near the car, a quick shape, a hand lifting. I opened my mouth to stop him. The house felt very small, and I felt suddenly very alone. I thought about all the small moments I would have to sort through later. The small lies, the late work dinners, the nights on his phone. I thought about the day we signed the mortgage and the way he had promised to always come back. He moved his hand toward the doorknob. I reached out, not to beg, but to hold him in place until I could understand. My fingers brushed his coat. He pulled back as if burned. I felt the air change around us. At that instant, the suitcase at his feet gave a tiny thud. From inside, a folded letter slipped out and landed at my feet. The letter was addressed to a name I did not know. My breath caught. I bent to pick it up. As I straightened, the shadow at the car moved forward. The car's headlights switched on, cutting a bright line through the foggy street. The car door closed with a dull click. My husband held the doorknob. His eyes met mine, and for a second time I thought I could see the man I once knew. Then the headlights flashed full, and the car began to pull away. I opened the letter. The first line burned into me. "After tonight, don't try to find me." The letter shook in my hands. Even though the words were short and simple, they felt heavy, like stones pulling my heart down. "After tonight, don't try to find me." I stared at those words while the cold air from the open door crawled up my arms. My husband stood frozen, halfway between leaving and explaining, and for one long moment, it felt like the walls of our home were listening. Before I continue, remember to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. And please tell me in the comments where you are watching from. I love seeing everyone together in the same story. Now, let me take you back. Because the truth is, the signs started long before that night. I just didn't want to see them. It began 3 months earlier. Life felt normal then. We laughed during dinner. We watched shows on weekends. He hugged me every morning like he always did. But slowly, things began to shift. Just small things at first, the kind of things you tell yourself not to worry about. One evening, he came home late. He smelled like rain and a perfume I did not know. When I asked how work was, he said, "Busy," then shut himself in the bathroom. When he came out, his shirt was changed, and the smell was gone. I thought it was just a long day. Another time, he hid his phone when I walked into the room. He pressed the screen so fast, like someone trying to cover a stain before you see it. I said, "Who were you texting?" He smiled and said, "Just work stuff." But his eyes didn't match his smile. Little highs and lows like that came and went. There was the night I cooked his favorite dinner. I waited for him, watching the food cool. When he finally walked in, he didn't touch the plate. He said he was not hungry and went straight to bed. That night, I lay awake thinking, maybe I'm imagining everything. Maybe I'm making a big deal out of nothing. But deep down, a small voice whispered, "Something is wrong." Another low moment came when I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. It was for a hotel across town. A hotel neither of us had ever visited. The date was from a week before. The amount was high, too high for a meal or a simple meeting. When I held the paper up to him, he didn't even look surprised. He just said, "It's old. It's nothing." His tone was so light, like he was talking about dust on the shelf. But the voice in my chest got louder. Still, there were good days too. Days that tricked me. He bought me flowers on a random Wednesday. He woke me up with pancakes on a Saturday morning. He even told me he loved me, the old way he used to. For a moment, I believed him. Those were the highs, the ones that made me think everything would be fine. But every high hid a deeper low coming behind it. One night, he forgot his phone on the couch. It buzzed while he was in the shower. The message on the screen said, "Are you still coming? Don't change your mind." I stared at those words until the phone buzzed again with a second message. "Everything is ready." My breath froze. I wanted to ask him right away, but fear held me back. Instead, I left the phone where it was and pretended nothing happened. I told myself there must be a simple explanation. Something innocent, something small. But innocence doesn't send messages like that. In the middle of all this confusion, he started withdrawing money without telling me. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. When I asked, he said he needed to pay unexpected bills. I believed him, even though my heart knew better. Then came the day he asked me to sign a paper. "Just routine," he said. "For the house." The paper looked different from the ones we usually signed. The words were tiny, packed tight. He rushed me, saying he was late for a meeting. I felt uneasy, but I signed. I wanted to trust him. But trust can be a quiet, dangerous thing. The last sign, the one that should have told me everything, came 2 weeks before that night. I walked past the study door and heard him whispering. Not talking. Whispering. His voice was low, and I caught only one sentence. "Yes. I'll be ready." Ready for what? When I pushed the door open, he jumped. He hung up the phone so fast he almost dropped it. He smiled at me, but I saw fear in his eyes. Fear and guilt. He said, "I was just planning something for us." For us. Those words now felt like lies wrapped in ribbon. Still, I swallowed every doubt because I loved him. Deeply, foolishly, completely. And that brings me back to the night of the suitcase, the ticket, and the letter in my hand. Standing there in the hallway, the letter shaking between my fingers, I knew this wasn't simple. This wasn't a man needing space. This wasn't stress. This wasn't confusion. This was a plan. A long plan. A plan he made while sleeping beside me every night. I looked at him, and for the first time, I saw everything clearly. He wasn't surprised that I found the letter. He wasn't confused. He wasn't scared. He was angry. Angry that his plan had been uncovered too soon. He stepped forward, snatched the letter from my hand and said, "You weren't supposed to see that." My voice cracked. "Why are you doing this?" He stared at me for a long time. He opened his mouth once, twice, then said nothing. Just silence. But then, something shifted. From outside, the car that had been waiting suddenly reversed back into the driveway. The tires screeched softly. The headlights lit up the entire hallway through the open door. A voice called out, louder this time, "Is everything okay in there?" I turned toward the door. I could see a shadow stepping out of the car. A tall figure. Moving quickly. Moving toward us. My husband panicked. His face changed in a heartbeat. He whispered, "Close the door. Now." But I didn't move. Because the person walking toward the house was someone I recognized. Someone I never expected to see in that moment. Someone who should not have been involved in any of this. And when their face came into the light, my knees almost gave out. Because the person in the driveway was. The porch light flickered, casting broken shadows across the driveway. The tall figure moved closer, stepping fully into the light. And when I saw the face, my breath caught in my throat. It was someone I knew. Someone who was never supposed to be standing outside my house in the middle of the night. Someone my husband once promised he would never speak to again. The person walking toward us was my husband's older brother. A man he hadn't talked to in almost 5 years. A man who once caused so much trouble in our lives that my husband swore he would never let him near our home again. Yet here he was, stepping out of the car that had been waiting for my husband to leave. My stomach tightened. Why was he here? Why was he part of this? The moment my husband saw him, his entire face changed. Fear flashed across his eyes. Not fear of me, not fear of getting caught, but fear of what that man might say. His brother walked right up to the doorway, ignoring me completely. His eyes were sharp, restless. He spoke in a low voice, as if he already knew something had gone terribly wrong. "What happened? Why aren't you in the car?" he asked my husband. My husband didn't answer. He kept glancing between me, the suitcase, and the letter I had held moments before. His silence told me everything. He was trapped now, caught between two people who knew parts of his secret. I stepped forward. "What is going on?" I asked, my voice shaking but strong enough to be heard. Finally, the brother turned to face me. His eyes were cold, the kind of cold that comes from holding too many secrets. He didn't greet me. He didn't pretend to smile. He simply looked at me like I was a problem he had hoped to avoid. "You weren't supposed to be awake," he said quietly. Those words hit me like ice water. I wasn't supposed to be awake? Why? What exactly were they planning? My husband snapped, stopped talking, but his brother ignored him. Instead, he stepped inside the doorway, his shoes brushing against the hallway tile. "You should have left already," he told my husband. "We don't have time for this." My knees felt weak. I clutched the wall beside me. "Leave." "Leave where? And why with him?" My husband rubbed his forehead, frustrated. "She found the letter," he said. "She saw everything." The brother sighed, not out of surprise, but out of annoyance. "It doesn't matter," he said. "We can still fix this. Just pack the rest and let's go." "Fix this? Go where?" My voice trembled as I asked. "Why are you helping him leave me?" The brother stared at me, his expression unreadable. "Because he has no choice," he said. I shook my head. No choice. He planned this for months. He bought a ticket. He packed a suitcase. He hid money. He lied every day. The brother exhaled sharply. "You don't understand." "Then explain it." I cried. My husband stepped between us. For a moment, he looked like the man I used to know. Scared, tired, desperate. he whispered. "I didn't want you to find out like this." My voice cracked. "Find out what?" He swallowed hard. His hands shook. Before he could answer, the brother spoke instead. "Tell her," he said harshly. "Or I will." My husband closed his eyes, as if the truth itself hurt him. Then he finally said the words that made my whole body go cold. "I wasn't leaving alone." I stared at him, confused. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then pointed toward the car. I turned slowly, looking through the open doorway. There was someone else in the back seat. A small figure, too small to be an adult. My heart stopped. A child. My mind raced. Who was that? Why was a child involved? Why would my husband be leaving with a child? I tried to get closer to see through the window, but the brother stepped in front of me, blocking the view. My husband whispered, "Please don't come closer." I pushed his hand away. "Is that a child? Who is that?" Neither of them answered. The silence was worse than any lie. My fear changed shape. It grew deeper, darker. Something was very wrong here. Something far bigger than my husband simply running away from our marriage. The brother suddenly grabbed my husband's arm. "We don't have time for this. She knows too much now. Let's go." My husband tried to pull back. "No, wait." But at that exact moment, the child in the back seat moved. The car's interior light flicked on for a second. And in that flash of dim yellow light, I finally saw the child's face. My hand flew to my mouth. Because the child looked familiar. Very familiar. Too familiar. It felt like looking into a mirror, a tiny version, but unmistakable. The child looked like me. My legs almost gave out. My husband stepped forward, panic all over his face. "Just listen." But I couldn't breathe. I pointed at the car, trembling. "Why does that child look like me?" The brother cursed under his breath. My husband reached toward me. And then, a loud knock thundered on the front door behind me. I froze. The brother stiffened. My husband whispered, "No, not now." The knock came again. Harder, faster. Then a voice called out, "Open this door. We know he's inside." I spun around, shocked. Because that voice belonged to someone I never expected to show up at our doorstep in the middle of the night. Someone who knew even more about what my husband was hiding. And when I opened the door, what I saw made the entire hallway spin. The pounding on the door grew louder, shaking the frame. My heart raced so fast I could hardly feel my legs under me. The brother backed away from the entrance, his eyes sharp and unsettled. My husband grabbed my arm gently at first, then tighter when the knocking turned into full fists slamming against the wood. The voice outside called again, louder this time. "We know he's in there. Open the door." My breath caught. "Who is that?" I whispered. My husband shook his head quickly. "Do not open it." His voice trembled, not with anger, but fear. Real fear. The brother stepped forward. "If she opens that door, everything falls apart. Stop her." But their warning came too late. The knocking turned into a heavy shove. And something inside me snapped, a mix of fear, desperation, and the need for answers. I grabbed the knob and pulled the door open. Cold night air rushed in. And standing on the porch were two police officers. My heart dropped into my stomach. One officer, a woman with a stern face and a flashlight in her hand, looked directly at me. "Ma'am," she said, breathing hard as if they had been running. "We need to come inside. Now." My voice shook. "Police? Why? What's happening?" The other officer stepped past her, placing a protective arm in front of me. "Where is he?" the officer asked. "We need to speak with your husband immediately." I turned to look at my husband. His face had gone pale, almost gray. His brother muttered a curse under his breath. The officer behind me said, "Ma'am, Are you aware your husband has been reported missing for the last 72 hours? My mouth fell open. Missing? No, he's right there. The officer's eyes narrowed. We received a report from his workplace, his sister, and 2 neighbors. They all said he disappeared without warning. Disappeared? I stared at my husband, stunned. He hadn't disappeared. He'd been coming home every day. Or had he? Had he? My mind spun as I remembered the late nights, the early mornings, the unexplained absences, the nights he claimed he was working late. Was he even coming home every night? The officer continued. We traced a suspicious car linked to him. It was seen picking someone up at odd hours. Then we got a tip that he might attempt to leave the country. My husband stepped forward quickly. It's not what you think. The officer pulled out a folded paper. We also received this. My husband's face turned stone cold. The officer unfolded it, a printed airline confirmation. A one-way flight. The same flight I saw in the ticket he hid. Sir, the officer said firmly, we have reason to believe you are involved in a planned disappearance. Planned disappearance? The phrase echoed in my head. The brother stepped in front of my husband. Back off. You don't know anything. The officer raised a hand. Sir, step back. This is a legal matter. No, my husband said suddenly. He pushed his brother aside and stepped forward, desperate. Listen to me. You don't understand. I wasn't running from the law. I was trying to protect. Protect who? I whispered. He didn't answer. The officer continued. We also received an anonymous call tonight. Whoever called told us you're not leaving alone. The child in the car. My stomach twisted painfully. The officer's flashlight swept toward the driveway. The car. The small figure in the back seat froze under the light. The moment the officer moved toward the driveway, the brother panicked. He shouted, "Don't go near that car." The officers immediately placed hands on their holsters. Sir, step back. My husband grabbed his brother. Stop. You're making it worse. The officer closest to the car shined the flashlight harder. The beam fell on the child's face. The child blinked at the light. The officer's voice softened into confusion. Why does that child look? I stepped forward, trembling. Like me. I asked the same question. My husband's face tightened. The officer turned to him. Sir, is this child biologically related to your wife? A long silence. A heavy silence. Finally, my husband whispered, yes. The officer's jaw tightened. Then why is the child here at this hour? And why did you hide that you had a child? My vision blurred. He hid a whole child from me? A child that looks like me. The brother growled under his breath. This is exactly why I told you not to drag her into this. Drag me into what? I yelled. The child in the back seat shifted again, their little hand pressed against the window. The officer opened the car door slowly. Sweetheart, can you come out? We just want to talk. The child whispered something too soft to hear. The officer crouched. It's okay. You're safe. But the child didn't move toward the officer. Instead, the child looked straight at me. Eyes round. Afraid. Then the child spoke. A quiet, trembling voice. Mommy. The world spun. I grabbed the doorframe to keep from collapsing. Mommy. The officer repeated, stunned. Why would they call you? But the child wasn't done. They pointed at me and said, you left me. My heart broke in half. I don't have any children, I whispered. The child frowned, confused. But, you said you would come back. Tears filled my eyes. What is happening? I whispered, shaking. The brother shouted, don't listen to the kid. We need to leave now. My husband yelled back, stop talking. The officers stepped between them. Everyone stay where you are. The night was full of yelling and flashing lights. But then, a scream tore through the air. Not from the child. Not from me. Not from my husband or the brother. The scream came from the police officer standing beside the squad car. Everyone turned. And what we saw made all of us freeze. The officer staggered backward. Their flashlight hit the ground. And right behind the squad car, someone else was standing there. Someone none of us had seen arrive. Someone whose face made my knees weaken. Because it was a face I never thought I'd see again. A face I believed was gone forever. A face that changed everything. The officer whispered, terrified. "Ma'am, do you know this person?" The night air smelled like rain and old leaves. The woman standing behind the squad car looked like a shadow walking into light. Her hair was pulled back. Her face had lines from years of worry. But the part that stopped my breath was how much she looked like me. Not only in the shape of her eyes or nose, but in the tiny scar on her chin I had from when I fell as a child. I had thought that scar was only mine. Seeing it on her made my legs go soft. The police officer whispered, "Ma'am, do you know this person?" For a moment, no one spoke. The car engine puttered. The rain began to fall in small, nervous drops. The child in the back seat hugged a small toy and watched everything with wide eyes. My husband's mouth opened and closed. His brother's jaw was tight. The officers held their batons like they were waiting for something to break. The woman took one slow step forward. Her eyes met mine. Up close, I could see the way her hands shook. Fear and sorrow ran through her face like two rivers. She said my name. Not like my full name, just the friendly nickname my family used when they wanted me to listen. The sound hit my chest like a struck bell. "Where did you come from?" I heard myself ask, even though my voice sounded small. She smiled sadly. "From far away. From a place you did not want to remember." My husband tried to speak, but the officer held up a hand. "Please stay back," she said. "We will sort this out." The woman ignored them. She stepped forward until she was only a few feet away. She looked strange and familiar at once, like a photograph you once loved but had not seen in years. Then she said something that made the air thin. "Do you remember the night the power went out? When you were 12? She asked. I blinked. For a second, my mind went flat. Then a small picture came up like an old movie. The storm, the candlelight, me sitting on the stairs while someone hummed a song. The memory was sharp and sudden. I had not thought of that night in years. "Yes," I whispered. "I remember." She reached into her coat and slowly pulled out an old, folded photograph. Rain beaded on the paper. Her hands were careful as if the picture might fall apart. She held it out to me. In the photograph, two girls sat on a low wall under a streetlight. One of them was me, with my small scar and my crooked smile. The other was the woman standing now, younger, softer, but the same face. Behind us, a younger man laughed, and a small baby slept in a blanket. My stomach dropped. The baby's face in the photo had the same round eyes as the child in the car. The woman's voice was quiet. "You left him," she said. "You left me with him." I took the photograph with fingers that would not stop shaking. The paper smelled like dust and rain. I had a memory, a sharp, quick flash of that night. Laughter, lights, and then my mother calling my name. But the rest was hazy, strange, like a dream I could not hold. I looked at the child in the car again. The child had my chin. The child had my eyes. The child looked at me as if hoping I would break a promise. My husband suddenly pushed forward. "Stop this," he said to the woman. His voice was half anger, half fear. "You have no right to." "Right," she cut in. "Right. Did you ask me for permission when you took him? Did you ask me when you hid her from me? You sold my safety for your plan." "Hush," the brother snapped. "Don't make it worse." A police officer moved between them. "We need calm," she said. "Talk slowly. Tell us everything." The woman looked at the officer, then back at me. You used to promise you would never leave, she said. You promised you would take care of him if anything happened. But you left that night, and he stayed with me. I raised him alone. My mind searched for the missing pieces. A tiny voice inside me whispered a terrible possibility. Who is he? I asked, the words shaking. The woman answered without hesitation. He is your son. The world tilted. I could not breathe for a second. I opened my mouth and no words came out. I thought of my life, of the years I remembered and the blank spaces I had always told myself were nothing. I had never had children. I had never felt the small kicks in my belly, the heavy body, the baby cries. But this woman was saying that a child I had never known was mine. My husband's face became pale. He looked at me with a strange look. Not the look of a man surprised, but the look of a man who had been preparing for this moment a long time. You're lying, I said, but my voice was hoarse. The woman did not flinch. Her mouth tightened. Look into his eyes, she said softly, pointing to the child. Look for the scar. I looked. The child had a small mark on the left side of the chin. My scar. It was faint but there. I remembered falling off a swing as a little girl and getting a cut. My parents had told me the story 1,000 times. How could the same mark be on this child? The officer spoke again. Sir, she said to my husband, you need to tell us the truth now. Is this your child? Is this your wife's child? My husband closed his eyes. He breathed out slowly, like someone letting go of a held breath. When he opened his eyes, his pupils were dark. I didn't mean for it to be like this, he said. I thought I could protect everyone. Protect? The woman spat. By hiding her? By running? You don't understand, he started. Then help her understand, the officer said. Tell her now. He swallowed. He looked at me as if trying to find permission to speak the worst thing he might say. I found her when she was small, he began. She was in danger. I promised I would help her. I promised I would get her somewhere safe. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to. Where did you find her? The officer asked. In a small town with her aunt, he said. She was alone. The woman here. He looked at the woman and his voice broke. She is the only family she had left. The woman's shoulders shook. You left me with him, she said again. You left me when he needed you. The child in the car pressed their forehead to the glass and whispered, Mommy, where did you go? The word mommy fell like a stone into the quiet night. My breath stopped. A memory, small and soft, crept into my mind, a hand on my shoulder in a house that smelled like bread, a laugh, a promise. I could not tell if it belonged to me or to the photograph. The officer looked at me with pity and duty mixed together. Ma'am, she said, we need you to come with us and tell your story. Right now, this is a case of possible child endangerment and deception. We must sort the facts. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. I wanted to demand answers from the only man I had trusted. Instead, my legs moved like they had a mind of their own. I walked slowly toward the car. The rain wet my hair. The photograph slipped from my fingers and landed on the wet pavement. The child looked up at me. Those eyes were the same eyes I saw in the mirror in the morning, the same eyes that had watched me sleep as a child. I knelt down and reached a hand toward the window. The child pressed a small, damp hand to the glass. Mommy, the child said again. My whole life swelled into that single sound. My chest hurt. My head filled with pieces I had not known were missing. Then, before I could move my hand to the handle, the woman grabbed my arm and whispered in my ear in a voice that was both pleading and fierce. If you want the truth, come with me. But be ready. Once you hear it, nothing will be the same. I opened my mouth to answer. A shout behind me cut the air. Move back, an officer ordered. Hands where we can see them. Someone was running up the driveway. Heavy feet. The sound was close and fast. I turned. And there, through the rain and the light, a figure came into view, running toward us with something in their hand that glittered like metal. My heart stopped all over again. Rain poured harder, drumming against the pavement as the running figure came into view. Their shoes splashed through puddles. Their arm was raised. The metal in their hand caught the porch light and flashed like a warning. The police officers reacted first. "Drop it," one shouted. "Stop right there," the other yelled, stepping forward with her hand on her holster. I froze. The woman gripping my arm gasped. My husband's brother grabbed my husband and pulled him back like a shield, while the child in the car began to cry softly, fogging the window with their breath. The running figure ignored every command. They didn't stop. They didn't slow down. They were coming straight toward us. For one terrifying second, I thought the metal object was a knife. But as the figure stepped into the porch light, I saw it clearly. It wasn't a knife. It was a phone. A cracked phone, held tight in their shaking hand. The person skidded to a stop in front of the officers, breathing hard. "Please, listen," they shouted, voice breaking. "Don't touch them. Don't arrest anybody. You need to hear this first." The officers held their positions. "Put the phone down," one warned. "No," the figure cried, stepping back. "If you take this, everything gets twisted again. Let me show it." I blinked, trying to see the person's face through the rain. Then my heart twisted. It was my neighbor, the quiet woman who lived 2 houses away. The same woman who always waved politely, who brought cookies last Christmas, who warned me about the loose fence panel last month. She looked terrified. "What are you doing here?" I asked, shocked. She turned to me, eyes full of panic and urgency. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I tried to warn you earlier. I tried to tell you, but she pointed at my husband with a shaking hand. "He always caught me before I could." I felt ice crawl up my spine. One of the officers stepped closer. "Ma'am, what's on that phone?" She held it tighter, as if it were a life jacket. "Proof," she said. "All the proof she needs. I recorded everything." My husband lurched forward. "Don't you dare." The brother grabbed him. "Stop. Don't make it worse." The neighbor continued, her voice trembling. I didn't know what to do. I heard the arguments. I heard the calls. I saw him sneaking out with the child. And I saw you crying alone on your porch last week, but you didn't even know why you were crying. My breath caught. I had cried on the porch. I hadn't known why. It had felt like a storm inside me. The neighbor wiped rain from her face. "You don't remember because someone made sure you wouldn't remember." Everything inside me froze. "What do you mean?" I whispered. The neighbor looked at my husband, not with anger, but with fear. "He didn't tell you, did he?" she asked. "He never told you what they did when you were younger? About the place they took you? About why you can't remember that child?" My stomach tightened. My husband shouted, "Stop talking." The woman who claimed to be connected to my past stepped forward, face pale. "You told her nothing," she said, staring at my husband with disbelief. "All these years, and you kept her in the dark?" The neighbor lifted the phone. "I have the recordings," she said. "Of him. Of his brother. Of their plans. Of the doctor. Of what they plan to do with the child tonight." The officers exchanged a sharp look. "Sir," one said to my husband, "is there something you need to tell us?" My husband didn't answer. His silence was louder than any confession. The neighbor unlocked her phone with trembling hands. "This is what I recorded 3 nights ago," she said, when they thought no one was listening. She clicked play. A voice crackled through the speaker, rough, urgent, whispered in panic. "You have to wipe her memory again. She's starting to remember the child. If she does, everything falls apart." My blood went cold. The voice was unmistakable. My husband. I staggered backward. The woman beside me grabbed my arm to steady me. The officers stiffened, listening closely as the recording continued. "We'll take the kid tomorrow night," the brother's voice said. "We'll get on the first flight. She won't follow." Then my husband again. "She can't remember. Not now. Not ever. If she remembers what happened in that town, she'll ruin everything." My throat closed. I shook my head slowly. What did I forget?" I whispered. The neighbor stopped the recording, her voice soft and trembling. "You didn't forget," she said. "They erased it." I stared at her, stunned. The rain, the flashing lights, the shouting, everything drowned under the weight of those words. "They erased your memories," she repeated. "To keep you away from that child. To keep you away from your past. To keep you from knowing the truth." The officers stepped forward to detain my husband and his brother. "Don't touch me," the brother shouted, pulling away. My husband didn't move. His face looked hollow, defeated, like someone standing on the edge of a cliff with nowhere left to run. "Is it true?" I whispered. "Did you erase my memories?" He looked at me with eyes full of shame. "I had to," he said softly. "If you remembered everything, you would never forgive me." My chest tightened painfully. "What did you do?" I whispered. He took a slow step toward me, ignoring the officers closing in. "I saved you," he said. "I saved you from the truth." The woman next to me shouted. "No. You hid the truth. You didn't save her." My husband looked at the child in the car. "Everything I did for them," he said. "And for you." The officers grabbed his wrists and began to cuff him. The child cried harder. The woman holding my arm whispered, "There's more you need to know. Much more." My husband shouted one last thing as the officers pulled him away. "If you remember that night, you will wish you never did." The words hit me like a punch. The woman squeezed my arm. "Come," she whispered urgently. "If you want answers, you must come with me now. Before they take everything again." I swallowed hard. "Take what?" I whispered. She leaned close to my ear and said something that made my entire world tilt upside down. "They didn't just erase your memories. They erased your identity." My heart stopped. But before I could ask what that meant, a scream tore through the night. Everyone turned. And what I saw next made my whole body freeze with terror. Someone I thought was safely inside the police car, was suddenly gone. And the child's door was wide open. The scream that tore through the rain had come from the female officer. She stumbled backward, pointing at the police car with wide eyes. The child is gone." Every head snapped toward the squad car. The back door hung open. Rain blew inside. The small toy the child had been holding lay on the seat, soaked and trembling in the wind. But the child, gone, vanished into the night. "How did they?" the male officer started, running toward the driveway. "We locked the car. We locked it," the brother shouted. Find him now." The woman gripping my arm let out a shaky breath. Her eyes darted through the darkness. No, not again. Not again." My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the storm. My child, a child I didn't even know I had, was missing again. The neighbor held her cracked phone to her chest. "He couldn't have gone far. He's just a child. That's the problem," the woman whispered. "He doesn't go far. He goes where he feels safe." I turned toward her. Safe? Where would that be? "He doesn't even know me." She looked at me with a painful expression. "You don't remember, but he does." Before I could ask what she meant, the male officer shouted, "There. Footprints. Small ones, leading toward the backyard." Everyone moved at once. The officers ran with flashlights. My husband, half-cuffed, tried to break free. His brother yelled something I couldn't hear. The neighbor grabbed my hand and pulled me along. And the woman, the one who claimed to know my past, followed close behind, her breath ragged with fear. We sprinted around the side of the house. The rain had turned the ground muddy. Small shoe prints dotted the path, unmistakably a child's. But as we reached the corner of the backyard, the tracks suddenly stopped. Completely. No path forward. No path back. Just stopped. The female officer scanned the area. There's no way he just disappeared. Where is he? The neighbor pointed at the old wooden shed at the very back of the yard. The door was slightly open, swaying in the wind. He's in there, she whispered. How do you know? I asked. Because, she said quietly, that's where you used to hide when things were bad. My breath caught. I used to hide in there. She nodded. Every time you were scared. Every time you were hurt. That shed was your safe place. The woman from my past stepped forward. He remembers. Even if you don't. A deep fear crawled into my chest. What kind of life had I lived before? What did they hide from me? What did I hide from myself? The officers approached the shed cautiously. Stay behind us, the male officer said. But something inside me, something old, something buried, pushed me forward. No, I said. He won't come out for you. Let me try. The officers hesitated, then stepped aside. The shed door creaked when I pushed it open. Inside, it was dark and musty. The air smelled like dust, soil, and old memories. My heart hammered. Then I saw him. The child was crouched in the far corner, hugging his knees, rocking gently. Rainwater dripped from his hair. His shoulders shook with soft sobs. My breath trembled. I knelt slowly. It's okay, I whispered. You're safe. He didn't look up. I tried again. I'm not here to hurt you. Still, nothing. So I used the nickname the woman had used on me earlier, the one tied to a memory I didn't fully understand. I whispered that same soft, familiar name. Hey, sweetheart. His head jerked up. His eyes, my own eyes, locked onto mine. He stood slowly, unsteady on his small feet, then took one tiny step toward me. Then another. And another. When he reached me, he lifted his little hand and placed it on my cheek. Mommy, he breathed. You came back. Tears flooded my eyes. I pulled him close, holding him for the first time I could remember, and something warm, something ancient, something broken began to piece itself together inside me. But the moment was short-lived. A sharp snap echoed outside, a twig cracking loudly. The male officer shouted, "Who's there? Show yourself." I stood, gripping the child tightly. The woman beside me whispered, No, it can't be her." "Who?" I asked. But she didn't answer. The officers raised their flashlights toward the tree line. Then, a tall figure stepped out from behind the trees. Slowly, deliberately, covered in a long coat, hood pulled low, shoulders stiff. They stopped right at the edge of the light. My stomach tightened. The child buried his face in my shoulder. The figure lifted their head. And when the hood fell back, the neighbor gasped. The woman beside me stumbled. The brother cursed under his breath. My husband, still in handcuffs, froze completely. Because the face that emerged from the shadows was mine. Not similar. Not related. Not a look-alike. It was my face. Exactly my face. The same scar. The same eyes. The same age. The same everything. The officers stepped back in shock. My knees went weak. The child clutched me tighter. And the woman beside me whispered, barely audible, "I told you, they erased your identity." The figure stepped forward, staring at me with a cold expression that looked like my own reflection turned cruel. And in my exact voice, she said, "You were never supposed to wake up." The woman who stepped out of the shadows, the woman with my face, stared at me with an expression colder than rain. Her eyes locked on mine, then dropped to the child clinging to my shoulder. A smirk curved across her face. "So," she said in my exact voice, "you found him." The male officer stiffened. "Ma'am, stay where you are." Hands visible. She lifted both hands slowly, not in fear, but in amusement. "You think you can stop this?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass. "You have no idea what she really is." My breath twisted. "Who are you?" I whispered. She tilted her head slightly. "I'm you," she answered simply. "The version of you they kept. The version that still remembers everything." My heart plunged. "No," I said, shaking my head. "No, this doesn't make sense." "It doesn't make sense to you," she replied. "Because they took everything from you. They wiped your past, your name, your identity." She pointed at my husband. "And he helped them do it." The officers tightened their stance. "Everyone stay calm," the female officer warned. "Explain yourself." Fake me, or whatever she was, chuckled softly. "Explain? Where should I start? The day she disappeared? The night they took the baby? Or the years they tried to turn her into someone new?" The woman beside me, the one who claimed to know my past, stepped forward. "Don't listen to her," she said frantically. "She was created to replace you. She's not real." Fake me snapped her gaze toward her. "Not real," she said sharply. "I lived the life she was supposed to live. I took care of the child when you raised your hands and gave up. I stayed while she ran away." My grip tightened on the child. The neighbor whispered, "What is happening? There can't be two." But the woman with my face cut her off. "Oh yes, there can. They made her forget herself so she wouldn't come back for him." She pointed directly at me. "She is the original. I am the duplicate made to keep the secret quiet." My stomach lurched. I whispered, "Duplicate." She nodded slowly. "Created. Trained. Built from her memories. Built to become the perfect version of the story they wanted." My husband struggled against the officers restraining him. "Stop talking," he shouted. "You don't understand what you're doing." Fake me turned her eyes toward him. "You're the reason everything fell apart," she said. "You couldn't control her anymore. You couldn't keep the lies straight. You thought you could erase her, erase me, erase that child and walk away." His brother growled. "Shut up. You don't tell her anything." The police officers raised their hands. "We need silence," the male officer barked. But no one listened. The storm was growing louder, wind snapping branches, lights flickering across the yard. Fake me stepped toward me, slowly, deliberately, like a reflection walking out of a broken mirror. "You weren't supposed to wake up," she said again. "You weren't supposed to see the child. You weren't supposed to remember anything." "I don't remember anything," I shouted back. "I don't know you. I don't know him. I don't know any of this." She stopped just a few feet away. "That's the point," she said. "Your stolen memory is the only thing protecting them." She pointed at the child. "He never stopped waiting for you. He remembers everything, even the night you disappeared." My throat tightened. "Tell me what happened," I whispered. "Tell me the truth." Her expression shifted, not soft, but sad. "You don't want the truth. The truth broke you once already." The woman beside me stepped forward. "Stop. She doesn't need your version." Fake me snapped. "My version? I lived it. You let them take her. You hid the truth for years. You left her with the doctor who—" She stopped abruptly. The officers noticed. "Who?" the female officer demanded. "Finish that sentence." Fake me looked directly at me. "The doctor who erased your memory," she whispered. My breath vanished. "But that's not the worst part." Her voice lowered, a trembling, angry whisper. The worst part is, you begged them to do it. I staggered backward, nearly dropping the child. No, I whispered. That's not possible. Why would I do that? Fake me took one slow step. You begged them, she repeated. Because the night everything collapsed, you saw something that broke your mind. I felt the world tilt. What did I see? You saw what your husband and his brother planned for the child. My heart pounded. My husband screamed, "Don't listen to her." Fake me shouted back. He was going to sell him. A loud crack of thunder followed her words like the sky itself reacted. I gasped. The officers froze. Even the child buried his face deeper against my neck. No, I whispered, shaking my head. No, he wouldn't. Fake me looked at me with a bitter, broken expression. That's why you ran. That's why you hid him. That's why you told them to erase your memory, so you couldn't lead anyone back to him. My legs trembled. I remembered a door. I remembered running. I remembered holding someone small. I remembered crying, so hard I couldn't breathe. A sharp pain stabbed my temple. My vision blurred. Fake me whispered, "You sacrificed yourself to save him." But he found him anyway. The officers tightened their grip on my husband. "You're under arrest," the male officer said. But my husband screamed something unexpected, something that made the officers pause. "You're arresting the wrong me." Everyone froze. The brother yelled, "Don't say another word." But my husband lifted his head with a strange, hollow smile. "I'm not the one who sold the child," he said quietly. The officers exchanged a glance. "Then who?" the woman beside me demanded. My husband turned his eyes, slowly, toward fake me. A sick smile touched his lips. "Ask her," he said. "Ask your perfect replacement what she did." Fake me's expression twitched, the first crack in her cold mask. And the child whispered into my ear, "Mommy, she's the one who took me." The world went silent. Fake me's face hardened. The woman beside me gasped. The neighbor backed away. The officers reached for their weapons. Fake me looked at me with eyes full of dark fire. "You weren't supposed to know that," she whispered. Then she turned and ran into the dark woods behind the shed. The officers shouted and chased after her. But the woman beside me grabbed my face with trembling hands and said, "Don't run after her. Not yet. You need to hear the truth first." Before I could answer, the security lights behind the house flickered once, twice, then went out completely. And from the darkness of the woods, a voice identical to mine echoed back, "You'll never find me in time." The lights behind the house flickered out, plunging the yard into a deep, heavy shadow. Rain fell harder, the wind slicing through the trees. In the darkness, Fake me's voice echoed like something not fully human. "You'll never find me in time." The officers sprinted into the woods with their flashlights, shouting commands. The beams of light bounced like frantic stars between the trees. But the woman with my face had already melted into the shadows. I held the child tightly, his small heart beating fast against my chest. The woman who claimed to know my past stayed close, breathing hard, her fingers trembling as she squeezed my shoulder. "She's dangerous," she whispered. "You must not let her get to you again." "Again," I repeated. "What do you mean, again?" But before she could answer, the neighbor's cracked phone buzzed in her hand. She checked the screen, her eyes going wide. "Oh no," she whispered. "This is bad." "What is it?" I asked, heart pounding. "It's a message," she said in a shaky voice. "From a blocked number." The woman beside me grabbed the phone and read the message aloud. "If you want the child back, bring her to the old clinic. Alone." My throat tightened. "Bring her?" I asked. "Who do they mean?" The neighbor swallowed. "You. They mean you." The rain dripped down my neck. The storm around us felt like it was waiting, listening. The woman beside me wiped water from her face. She's trying to separate you. She always isolates the target before making her move. My mind spun. So this fake me. She wants me at the clinic? The woman nodded slowly. Not just wants. She needs you there. Why? I whispered. Because, she said, voice trembling. That's where everything started. My heart pounded painfully inside my chest. What happened at that clinic? She hesitated. It's where they erased your memory. It's where the duplicate was created. And it's where you hid the child the first time. I gasped as a quick flash, a memory, cut through my mind. A hallway. Dim lights. A hand pulling me. A child crying. A door slamming shut. But the image slipped away before I could hold it. The neighbor stepped closer. We can't let you go alone. She's dangerous. The woman shook her head firmly. If she doesn't go, the child will run again. He'll look for the clinic himself. That place is wired into his memory. As if in answer, the child tugged on my sleeve. Mommy, he whispered. She said she would take me back there. My breath hitched. Back. You've been there before. He nodded slowly. That's where she told me to wait for you. I felt sick. I never came. That's because they made you forget, the woman whispered. The storm rumbled above us like a warning. Suddenly, the officers burst back into the yard. She's fast, one shouted. We lost sight of her. The other officer pointed toward the woods. But we found this. He held up something small and metallic, a key with a red tag. My stomach dropped. The woman beside me inhaled sharply. That's the clinic key. She wants you to follow her. Or she wants to trap me, I said. The officer handed me the key. Ma'am, you're not going alone. We will escort. No, the woman said softly. If they go with her, fake her will hurt the child. She always punishes him when she doesn't get her way. The officers hesitated. The neighbor wrung her hands. So what do we do? Rain poured harder. Thunder roared. I looked down at the child, shivering, scared, trusting me without knowing why. I looked at the key in my hand. Cold, heavy, waiting. Then I looked at the woman. The one who insisted she knew the truth. What aren't you telling me? I asked quietly. She closed her eyes, her voice barely a whisper. They didn't erase your memory to protect you. They erased it to protect everyone else. The wind stopped. Just for a second. What does that mean? I demanded. She opened her eyes, filled with regret, fear, and something else I couldn't name. You weren't just running from them, she whispered. They were running from you. My stomach twisted. Why? I asked. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Because before they erased your mind, before the duplicate was made, before the child went missing. She took a trembling breath. You did something. My knees weakened. What did I do? Thunder boomed through the sky. She whispered. You fought back. My breath stopped. You tried to destroy the clinic. You tried to expose them. You tried to escape with the child, and they caught you. You begged them to erase your memory, because you didn't trust yourself anymore. I shook my head. You're lying. That's not possible. It is, she said fiercely. But they never erased everything. There's one memory you locked away on your own. The memory of what you saw inside the clinic. Lightning flashed. The child's grip tightened around my neck. I'm scared, he whispered. I held him close. The woman stepped back, her voice heavy and urgent. And if you go back there tonight, you will remember everything. Whether you want to or not. The officers' radios crackled suddenly. A distorted voice came through the static. She's waiting. Bring her to me. My blood ran cold. My own voice. Fake me's voice. Then another voice, smaller, shaking. Mommy, help. The child in my arms stiffened. "That's me," he whispered. "That's my voice." My breath faltered. The woman looked at me, rain pouring down her face. "Your memories are calling you back," she said. "And if you don't go, she will erase him." The storm raged. The woods loomed like a mouth waiting to swallow us. The clinic key burned in my palm. I took a steady breath. "I'm going," I said. But as I stepped forward, the neighbor grabbed my arm. "Wait. There's something else on the phone." She turned the cracked screen toward me. A new message had appeared. From the same blocked number. 5 chilling words. "You're not the only one." My chest tightened. Not the only one. What? The woman's face turned pale. She whispered, "She's not alone in that clinic." I swallowed hard. "Who else is there?" Her answer made the ground feel like it shifted under my feet. "There's another one of you." Before I could breathe, before I could move, another scream echoed from the woods. And this time, it was my own voice yelling for help. The scream pierced through the storm, my own voice echoing from deep within the woods. Not fake me. Not the neighbor. Not the woman from my past. It was my voice. My exact voice. Calling for help. The male officer froze. How is that possible?" The woman beside me whispered. "Because Faker isn't the only copy. There was another one. A failed one. An earlier one." My breath shook. "A third me." She nodded slowly. "The original duplicate. The one they made before the perfect one. The one who remembered too much and couldn't be controlled." Thunder shook the sky. The neighbor looked terrified. "So that scream, it came from—" "Yes," the woman said. "The first duplicate. They kept her locked inside the clinic. And now she's loose." The child in my arms trembled violently. "Mommy, don't go. Please." I kneaded the back of his head gently. "I have to. I won't let anyone erase you again." The officers stepped closer. "Ma'am, we cannot allow you to walk into a dangerous situation alone." But the woman shook her head. "No officer can stop what's coming. Only she can end it." I swallowed hard and pocketed the clinic key. "Let's go," I whispered. Rain fell harder as we walked toward the woods. The officers followed behind, guns drawn. The woman and the neighbor stayed close. The child clung to my jacket, refusing to leave my side. But as we reached the old iron gate leading into the forest path, the woman stopped abruptly. "You can't take him inside," she said, pointing at the child. "They will use him against you again." My heart clenched. "But I'll hold him," the neighbor said gently, reaching out. "He'll be safe with me. Go. We'll be right here when you return." The child cried softly. "Mommy, don't forget me again." I hugged him tight. "I won't. Not this time." I placed him into the neighbor's arms and stepped forward. The woman led me into the woods, rain smashing against branches. The storm felt alive, like it was pushing us toward a truth it wanted revealed. Minutes later, the clinic appeared through the trees, a broken, abandoned building with shattered windows, peeling paint, and flickering lights inside even though no wires had been connected for years. The woman stepped back. "I can't go inside. They'll recognize me." "They? Who's inside?" I asked. She whispered, "All the versions of you that never made it into the world." My blood ran cold. The door creaked open before I could touch it. Fake me stood inside, smiling as if welcoming a guest. "At last," she said in my voice. "You came." Behind her in the dim hallway, another figure stood, shaking, thin, frightened. The third copy. The first failed one. Her face was mine, but broken. Eyes wild. Cheeks hollow. Hair tangled. She whispered, "She lies. She lies about everything. Don't trust her." Fake me laughed softly. "Ignore her." She's unstable. That's why she was replaced. The first copy screamed. The lights flickered. The building shook faintly. The storm outside rattled the walls. I stepped inside slowly. Where's the child? Fake me tilted her head. Safe. For now. I tightened my fists. This ends tonight. Oh, it will, she said coldly. The first copy slipped behind me, grabbing my arm desperately. Run. Run. You don't know what she is. You don't know what you are. What am I? I asked, voice trembling. Fake me's smile widened. You're a failed experiment. A broken memory. A loose end. The first copy pulled harder. No. She's lying. You're the original. My heart stopped. Fake me's face twitched. Don't tell her that, she hissed. The first copy clung to me, desperate. You were never the one they made. You were the one they tried to erase. Something snapped inside me, a memory, alive and burning. A metal table. A blinding light. My child screaming. Me screaming louder. A needle. Hands holding me down. A voice saying, erase it. Erase everything. I staggered backward, gasping. Fake me stepped toward me. Stop remembering. Stop. But it was too late. Everything flooded back. I had tried to destroy the clinic. I had stolen my child. I had run. I had begged to forget because the truth was too heavy to hold. I was the original. And she, the cold one, was made to replace me. I lifted my head slowly. You're not me, I said. Her eyes widened. Don't you dare. You were created from my pain, I said. But you will not control me anymore. She lunged. The first copy screamed. The lights exploded. The clinic shook violently as if the storm itself had entered the building. I grabbed the metal tray beside me and swung it with all my strength. It hit Fake Me across the face. She fell back with a sharp cry. The officers burst in through the doors, weapons drawn. Down. Now! They shouted. Fake Me stumbled up, fury twisting her expression. I am you. I am the perfect you. No! I shouted. You are a lie. The first copy, trembling but brave, tackled Fake Me to the ground. G.O., she screamed. Find the boy. I ran. Through the hallway. Past broken doors. Through a room full of old machines. Until I found him. The child sat in the corner, crying quietly. When he saw me, he lifted his arms. Mommy. I grabbed him, held him tight. You're safe, I whispered. I promise. You're safe now. Behind me, officers dragged Fake Me out in handcuffs as she screamed curses in my voice. The first copy collapsed, exhausted, and the officers wrapped her in a blanket. The storm outside began to calm. The woman and neighbor rushed in, tears streaming down their faces. It's over, the woman whispered. It's finally over. I stepped outside into the clearing, the child in my arms. The rain stopped. The sun broke through the clouds, a thin, golden line across the sky. For the first time in years, maybe in my entire life, my mind felt whole. My real memories. My real identity. My real child. The truth was painful, heavy, full of broken pieces. But it was mine. And no one would ever take it from me again. If you want more emotional, powerful, and unpredictable stories like this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on your notification bell, and tell me in the comments which country you're watching from. I love seeing where everyone is joining from. Thank you for watching this journey. More incredible stories are coming.